Good morning, mathematicians. Today we are going to need for math workshop your math notebook, your color highlighters, glue stick, pencil, and your blue resource folder from your anchor binder. Remember, do not take this out of your anchor binder, but leave it inside. Just go ahead and open it up from inside the anchor binder. Today you're going to need, from the left teach pages, 2 sheets, page 18 that says line symmetry, and page 19 that says find and draw lines of symmetry. So go ahead and take out both of those pages, then carefully put your clip back on so you keep the rest of those pages nice and snug. And then from the right side, our classwork and homework side, we're taking out the sheet that says line symmetry. Then place that paper clip back on the side, and then you can go ahead and tuck that back in your anchor binder and put that away in your basket. We're going to use our math notebook first by looking at yesterday's lesson on how to classify quadrilaterals and make sure that we double check the page numbers 16 and 17, and then we're going to flip our pages. So we're going to go ahead and at the top of the next page, make sure you don't take more than one page. It's the very next page. It's page 18 on the left, page 19 on the right. And I'm going to glue those 2 pages on the page that is corresponding. So page 18 is line symmetry. I'm going to turn it over. And then you're going to go ahead and use your glue stick. Put your frame on the outside using glue stick. And then X out to make sure you get the middle. Then go ahead and carefully glue that down, making sure it's nice and smooth. Because mine overlapped, I'm just going to double check that it's written again. Then the right side that says find and draw lines of symmetry. Once again, use your glue stick. Make that box or frame on the outside. Then crisscross the back. Turn it over and get that glued in. And once again, if you had your page number written down and it's over top of it now, just go ahead and rewrite it. Once you're done, make sure that they're nice and smooth, and we're going to go back to our table of contents to write in today's lesson. So we're going to flip back to our table of contents. So today's focus is on symmetry. So we are going to learn how to identify it and then be able to draw it on shape. So symmetry. And then today's date is the 27th. Just like any other time that we're doing our notebooks, if you are taking just a couple more moments, pause the video, and then you can push play when you're ready to join us again. So going back to today's lesson, you're going to need your highlighter so we can highlight that important information. So I'm going to highlight the titles of my 2 pages today. So line symmetry, and then on the right, highlighting find and draw lines of symmetry. So both are referring to symmetry. We're just having slightly different focuses on each side. The next part we're going to look at is inside the teach box. So it says tell whether the parts on each side of the line match. So we're going to highlight some of the important words that are being given to us to know that they're asking for line symmetry. So we're going to highlight where it says the parts on each side of the line match. Match is what they're referring to as what we call symmetry. So it's a balance that is identical on 2 sides of a line. So we're going to put that identical on both sides of a line. So that means it has to be the exact same. It can't be just kind of, sort of, almost. It has to be absolutely identical. So when we look at this first model, it says, is the line a line of symmetry? So we're going to go ahead and use our light color highlighter to just kind of trace over top of what we call the line symmetry, or this dotted line. So this is like an invisible line that we place on top of our shape. This invisible or dotted line is going to be called our fold line. So we're going to write, that is called our folded line. So if this was a shape that I could actually fold with paper, I would fold the top section on the fold all the way to the bottom. So when I would fold my top shape, I need to identify what that shape is to see if they match. So the top side is now made into a smaller triangle than the original. But the bottom section, the base, if I look at it, there is one side, two sides, three sides, four sides now. So it's no longer a triangle on the bottom. This is now a quadrilateral because it has four sides. And if we refer back to yesterday's lesson, we should be able to see that not only is it a quadrilateral, but it's also a trapezoid because there's only one set of parallel sides. So if I see that the top part of my shape is a triangle and the bottom below the folded line is now a different shape, we can already determine that this will not have a line symmetry. So the steps that they have written out for us is just showing you the work that we did together. So you can refer back to the step one, how we could trace and cut out the shape and then fold on that dotted line that we call the folded line. Then we could match to see, did that folded triangle lay on top perfectly of that second or bottom shape of the quadrilateral. And then if it did not match perfectly, which we determined it did not, we would then say that there is not a line of symmetry. So this first section of our lesson is to identify where the folded line is and to determine if both sides of the folded line represent the same shape to then represent a line of symmetry. So the example says to tell if the line appears to be a line symmetry, we're going to write either the word yes or the word no. So we have to always pay close attention to what they're giving us in the directions. So for the first one, I'm going to take my highlighter and just remind myself where this folded line is. And then I'm going to identify the parts that are on opposite sides. So the top of the shape is now a triangle because there are three sides to that shape. The base has 1, 2, 3, 4. So the bottom part or the base is now a quadrilateral. And we need to remember that quadrilateral is a very broad term that just means four-sided shape, but we could also identify that once again as a trapezoid because it only has one set of parallel sides. So if we see the top portion's a triangle and the bottom portion's a quadrilateral, this right away will tell us that is not a line of symmetry. Moving on to the second shape, we're going to once again highlight that folded line we would make in the shape where we would fold from top to bottom over the folded line. The top is a triangle because it has three sides. The bottom is also a triangle. This is where you have to be very careful. It gets to be tricky. We have to determine, is the triangle the same size triangle on both sides? So for this particular one, you would have to look very carefully at what kind of triangle. So when we look at this, we would determine that this is a right triangle because there's two acute. The third one names it. So this is a right. When we flip it over, we see the bottom two are acute. The middle one that's touching the dotted line is also right angle. So this right angle and the other right angle, they look to be the same size, so we're going to say this appears to have a line of symmetry. In the next part, we are going to go ahead and highlight this next folded line. This next folded line, we have to identify the two sections again. So the top section has 1, 2, 3, 4, so that we say this is a quadrilateral. But we can also then determine whether or not it is the next step on our flow chart. So we look back. Is this a parallelogram or a trapezoid? Well, a parallelogram has two pairs of parallel sides. So the top and the bottom are parallel. The sides are a second set. So we can say that this is also a parallelogram. When we look at the bottom, it has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides again, and it also has two sets of parallel sides. So we can say this is also a parallelogram. So once we've identified that the two different shapes that are shown on each side of the line of symmetry, they also, if I folded, their fold would match perfectly. So we have to be very careful that when we see something that has points, that when it's folded, it's going to match up perfectly. So we say this one is also considered to be a line of symmetry. The last one on this page, we're going to highlight the fold line and once again identify the two side shapes. On the left, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we say this is our quadrilateral. And then we determine what type of quadrilateral. So we can see that the top and the bottom, eventually, if they continue to go, they would have overlapped. So that is not parallel, but our two sides are a set. So if we only have one set of parallel sides, this is our trapezoid on one side. And then on the right side, we have 1, 2, 3 sides. So this side is a triangle. So if we do not even have the same shape to start with when we identify our line, then right away we can say this is not going to have a line of symmetry. Moving on to the next part of the lesson. So we were able to first identify whether or not something appears to have a line of symmetry. Now we are going to do the drawing. So for this particular part of our teach page, in the top it says tell whether the shape appears to have what we call 0 lines, 1 line, or more than 1 line of symmetry. And they want us to do the writing of our answer. So I'm going to use my pink highlighter this time to say that my options for answering are to write a number. So the first shape that we have is what kind of looks like a cross, but it kind of looks like a star, like a North Star. So when we look at our steps, I'm going to use my green this time. Step 1 says to decide if the shape has a line of symmetry. So, well, that's the first step. We have to see, is there even one line of symmetry? So it says we could trace and cut out the shape. So if you want to trace this on a sticky note and then try to fold it, you can definitely do that. We are going to look at it visually just on this page for right now. And we can see that they've already shown us that there appears to be at least a line going what we call vertically from top to bottom straight through the middle of the shape. So the left side of the shape would fold directly on top of the right side. So it says, do the two parts match exactly? And they gave us the answer of yes. So we have already been able to mark that it has at least one because we were able to identify in the first step. The second step is to then try a different direction. So the first direction was vertically. This time we're going to show horizontally. So let's go back and just highlight vertical line. And this time let's highlight where it says horizontal line. So horizontal is like the horizon. So we're going to highlight the next possible line to see if this also appears to work. So when we draw the horizontal line, we would fold from top to bottom, and it appears that they would match perfectly. So the sides are touching, the top points would be touching, there would be no parts that would not overlap perfectly. So we would say that yes, this is also going to be considered a line of symmetry. So far we have at least 2 lines of symmetry. Well, the third one and the final step that we are going to be taking is changing the direction one final time. So we started with the vertical line, we went to horizontal. This time we're going on a diagonal, so we're going to write the word diagonal. And diagonal just means that we're going around in a circle, basically. So we see that we went to the diagonal by tilting the line to the right, and then we can also tilt the line the other direction as well. And because the shape is the shape it is, no matter if we went into the right diagonal or to the left, those 2 points would match the 2 points on the opposite side. So it doesn't matter which one we did, we can also see that it's also going to work. And Mrs. Ling just forgot to put a little A there, diagonal. So we're just correcting our spelling. All right, so then the answer, so the shape appears to have, and the answer choice is more than one. So if we remember from the directions, our direction was to either write that it had 0 lines, 1 exactly, or more than 1, and we were able to determine that. You may pause the video to see if you can solve and find the correct amount of line of symmetries for each of these. So now we're going to check our work. So you are to write, once again, does it have 0, 1, or more than 1? So for this particular shape, we always start with this first step, which is vertical, through the middle from top to bottom. Both sides appear to have a line of symmetry, so we would say, okay, well, that's my first one. Then I try the second step, horizontally. So that means that I'm going directly through the middle, and if I fold from top to bottom, this appears to be my second line of symmetry. Well, I know that I want to also try through the diagonal. So then I try my diagonal to the right. Those 2 points would match up with the bottom 2 points, so this is a third line. And I could also show my diagonal going to the left, and the 2 points on the right would match up with the 2 bottom points. So we know this at least has 4 lines of symmetry. So looking back at our answer choices, we only have to write that there are more than 1. The second shape, we start with our first step, which is vertical. So we might use a dotted line this time instead of a solid line, just to show a folded line. My left side of the shape is exactly the same as my right shape when folded, so I know that's at least 1 line of symmetry. If I were to draw a line through the middle, the top is a different shape than the bottom, so that is not going to be a line of symmetry. So I know that this is going to give me exactly 1, or I could have written out the word 1. This last one kind of looks like a spaghetti noodle. So pause the video and see if you can determine whether or not there's lines of symmetry. For this particular one, if we were to rotate the shape so it appears to be flat surfaced, I could try to draw my first one vertically. Pay close attention to the base of the 2 sides. It looks like a noodle or a rainbow. One side is flat, the other side is at an angle, so that is not a line of symmetry. If I were to draw a line going through the horizon or through the middle side to side, the top is the hump or the curve, and the base does not have the same, so that is not one either. So we can then be sure to write there are 0 lines of symmetry for this last shape. Today, when you're done, you're going to do the practice on your classwork page. So take out line symmetry, write classwork, and you are going to be finishing up the even numbers. Circle that you're going to be working on numbers 2, 4, 6, and 8. This first section just wants you to write yes or no if the line they provided is a line of symmetry. Number 10 is asking you to complete the design. So they've given you the design on one side of the fold. They want you to duplicate so it looks exactly the same but opposite. So you're going to look at what it would look like if it was folded. Then turn the page and you have the second part of our lesson. So you're going to start with numbers 2, 4, 6, and 8. So this is determining at the top whether or not it has 0, 1, or more than 1 lines of symmetry. Then the next part is, does the design have line symmetry? Write yes or no. And then if it is yes, actually draw the lines. Then for number 10, it says to draw a shape for the statement and then draw the line. So they're telling you how many lines of symmetry. You have to draw your own shape that represents only 1 line of symmetry. And then the last problem is which of the numbers from the box appears to have only 1 line of symmetry. So use your pencil, show the vertical lines in each of them, horizontal and diagonals, and then you can eliminate the numbers that do not follow what they're asking you to find. Remember, today you are going to take a picture of both sides of your teach pages and both sides of your classwork, and then we will review our completed classwork in our morning meeting.